We continue now at the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph Meseches Avoda Zara. This is Avoda Zara Daf 3a. This Amud is sponsored by Alexander Rosenfeld in memory of Shmuel Zeb and Aaron Rosenfeld. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you'd like to sponsor an Amud or Daf, see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was discussing how the nations of the world defend themselves in terms of their not fulfilling the Torah, and the Gemara mentioned that when it comes to the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, they didn't fulfill those, and the Gemara made a comment, if they didn't fulfill those at that moment, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that they were now mutter, they didn't have to fulfill them. And so the Gemara asked, how could that be? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they get a benefit from the fact that they didn't fulfill it? And so the Gemara now continues and answers, Lomar, what we mean to say is as follows, Sha'af al pisha mekayim osan, even if they do fulfill it, ein mekablan aleim schar, they're not going to get rewarded for that. Rashi explains, Lomar shim mekayim haTorah zu, when we're saying that the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach are mutter to them, lo tovasam hi, this was not something that was to their benefit. Ela she'ein mitzuvin l'kayim, it just means that they're no longer considered mitzvah, they're no longer considered commanded to fulfill them. And so therefore, if they do fulfill, they're not going to get reward. The Gemara says, Velo, but is it really true that they're not going to get reward? V'atanya, but we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Meir would say, how do we know that even if the Gentiles, the Osik b'Torah, even an idol worshiper who learns Torah, Shuk Kohen Gadol, that he's considered like a Kohen Gadol, Talmud Lomar, it's because the pasuk says, Asher Yasa Osam Ha'adam V'chai Bohem. It refers to the Adam who is fulfilling the Torah. And Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, Lo Nemar. It doesn't say in this pasuk Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. Elo Ha'adam. It says the word Ha'adam. And that means to say, Halamarata teaches Shafilo Ovid Kochavim, that even a non-Jew, V'osik b'Torah, who works in learning Torah, Harehu Kohen Gadol, is considered to be like a Kohen Gadol. And so therefore it seems to be that there is some kind of reward. And so the Gemara continues and says, Elo Lomar Lach, rather it's to say to you as follows. She'ein mekablan aleim schar k'mitzvah v'yosef, it means to say that when they fulfill the Zion mitzvahs b'nai Noach, they're not going to get rewarded like one who is commanded and fulfills. Elakami she'eino mitzvah v'yosef, rather it's like somebody who is not commanded and fulfills. That's a lesser level of reward. The Yamar Reb Chanina, because Reb Chanina says, Gadol ha-mitzvah v'yosef yoser mishe'eino mitzvah v'yosef. Somebody who's commanded and does is actually greater than someone who's not commanded and does. And so the Gemara continues in terms of the defense that the nations of the world present to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Alakach omrim ha'ovdei kochavim lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rather, this is what the Ovdei Kochavim say in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ribona Shalom, the master of the world. Yisrael shekiblua heichon kaimua. When it comes to Klal Yisrael, who accepted the Torah, in what way did they fulfill it? And the Gemara continues and says, Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, Ani meyid bohem shekaimu es HaTorah kula. I testify about Klal Yisrael that they fulfilled the Torah. Omrim lefanav, so the nations of the world, they say before him, Ribona Shalom, the master of the world, Klum yesh av shemeir al beno, is a father allowed to testify on behalf of his son. Tichsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, B'ni b'chori Yisrael, the Klal Yisrael is like the firstborn son of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not able to testify. And so the Gemara continues, Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, Shamayim v'oretz yo'idu b'hem, the heavens and the earth will testify, Shekaimu es HaTorah kula, that they fulfilled the entire Torah. Omrim lefanav, so then the nations of the world said before him, Ribona Shalom, the master of the world, Shamayim v'aretz nogen be'edusim, when it comes to Shamayim v'aretz, they have an interest, they have a personal interest in this testimony. Shenemar, as it says, Im lo brisi yomam v'layla, if not for my covenant day and night, chukos Shamayim v'aretz lo samti, that I wouldn't have the heavens and the earth, so that they are dependent upon Klal Yisrael. And the Gemara continues along these lines. V'yamar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, and Reish Lakish says, Mai d'chsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi. It says hashishi with a hey. Why does it say with a hey? Melamed shehisna HaKadosh Baruch Hu im ma'isa bereishis. What it teaches is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a condition with the creations of the world when he was creating the world. V'yamar, and he said, Im Yisrael mekablan es Torasi mutav, if Klal Yisrael, if they accept the Torah, then good. V'im lav, and if not, ani achzer eschem l'tov vavo, then I'm going to return you all to becoming tohu vavo, to becoming nothingness. And Rashi explains, Imlo brisi yomam v'layla, imlo brisi shekasavti shetei noheges yomam v'layla v'hainu Torah, if not for my covenant. And this is a reference to the Torah. T'chsiv v'higisa bo yomam v'layla, it says that you learn the Torah day and night. T'chsiv eila divrei habris. So hey de hashishi yisera, and the point of the Gemara is the letter hey, and the word hashishi is extra. V'chasva v'sof ma'isa b'reishas l'drasha zu, and the reason why it was written at the end of the entire creation, it was for this drasha. V'hachi mashma means to say as follows, Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi, Shel Shisha B'Sivan, we're referring here to the 6th of Sivan, Sha'asid in Yisrael, L'Kavel HaTorah, the Klal Yisrael in the future would accept the Torah. And the Gemara continues along these lines. V'hainu damar Chizkiah, that's what Chizkiah said. Some have the girsa of Yomar Chizkiah, and Chizkiah said, Ma'id chsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? There's a pasuk in Tehillim. It says, Mishamayim hishmata din eretz yara v'shakata. It talks about the land being afraid and being silent. Im yara lama shakata, if it's afraid, why is it silent? Vim shakata lama yara, and if it's silent, why is it afraid? Ella, rather, what the pasuk means is as follows. Betchila yara ulevasov shakata. In the beginning it was afraid, but at the end it was silent. And Rashi explains, Hishmata din matan Torah. Hishmata din is referring to the giving of the Torah, and B'tchila yar, in the beginning it was afraid, meaning the Oretz was afraid. Shemalo yakavlu Yisrael HaTorah, maybe Klal Yisrael would not accept the Torah. V'tachzor Oretz l'tov vavo, and then the earth would return to being tov vavo. Ulevasof, but at the end, kishekiblua, when they accepted the Torah, b'nasa v'nishma, by nasa v'nishma shakata, so then it was silent. And the Gemara continues, since Shamayim v'Aretz can't testify, because again, as we said, they have, so to speak, a personal interest. Amar lam HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, he said to the nations of the world, Mikem yavo v'yo'idu behen b'Yisrael, shekayim v'esatorah kula. Let them come from you, from the nations of the world. We'll have individuals come forward and testify that Klal Yisrael fulfilled the entire Torah. And the Gemara gives examples. Yavo Nimrod v'yoid ba'Avram shelo avad avodas kochavim. Let Nimrod come. He'll testify about Avram that he didn't worship Avodah Zara. Yavo Lavan v'yoid b'Yakov shelo nechshed ala gezel. Let Lavan come forward and testify about Yaakov that he's not suspect on stealing. Tavo Eshes Potifera v'toid b'Yosef shelo nechshed ala avera. Let the wife of Potifar come and she'll testify about Yosef that he's not suspect on the avera. Yavo Nebuchadnezzar v'yoid b'Chananya Mishael v'Azariah shelo ishtachavu l'tzelem. Let Nebuchadnezzar come over and he can testify about Chananya, Mishael, v'Azariah that they didn't bow to the image. Yavo Daryavesh v'yoid b'Daniel shelo bitel asat tefillah. Let Daryavesh come forward and testify about Daniel that he did not nullify, he didn't stop prayer. And Yavo Bildad Ashuchi v'Tzofar Hanamasi v'Elifas HaTeimani v'Yo'idu behem b'Yisrael. Let them come forward. These individuals, they'll come forward. V'Yo'idu behem b'Yisrael. They're mentioned in Sefer Eov. They'll testify about Klal Yisrael shekaimu as kol HaTorah kula, that they fulfill the entire Torah. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Yitnu eidehem v'yitztaku. Let them bring their witnesses and they will be justified. And Amru lefanav, so the nations of the world, they said before him, Ribona Shalola, Master of the world, to no lanu merosh v'nasena. So give us now, give us the Torah now, we'll fulfill it at this point in time. Amar lehen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, Shotim Shaba'olam, fools of the world, Mishatarach be'erev Shabbos, the one who is busy on Erev Shabbos, the one who does the work before Shabbos, Yochal b'Shabbos, he eats on Shabbos. Again, this entire conversation is taking place in the future on Shabbos, so to speak. So essentially, it's too late. Mishalot Tarach be'erev Shabbos, the one who didn't do the work on Erev Shabbos, Mehechon Yochal b'Shabbos, how is he going to eat on Shabbos? But nevertheless, El Afal Pichein, nevertheless, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mitzvah Kala Yeshli, I have an easy mitzvah, v'sukkah shema, it's called sukkah, l'chu v'asuo, so go and do that mitzvah. The Gemara continues and says, "Umimatzes amar hachi." Can you really say this? V'amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi ma'idich siv. But Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk Asher anochi mitzavcha hayom? It says it's commanded today. Hayom la'asosam. It has to be done today. V'lo l'mocher la'asosam. You don't do it tomorrow. You don't do it la'asid lavo. Hayom la'asosam. It's done today. V'lo hayom litol schar. You don't get the reward today. The reward is la'asid lavo. And so therefore, how could it even be that he's giving them a mitzvah la'asid lavo at this point in time, when the conversation is happening in the future? And the Gemara says, nevertheless, even though that's technically true, Elashein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba b'trunya imbriosa, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he doesn't deal with his creations in a tyrannical fashion. He wants to make it that the judgment is fair, so he does want to give the nations of the world that opportunity. And the Gemara continues, V'amai korile mitzvah kala. Now, why is it that sukkah is called an easy mitzvah? Mishum deles bechisar and kiss, because it doesn't really involve a loss of money. And miyad kol echad v'yechad notel v'holech v'yosa sukkah barosh gago. So immediately upon this offer, each one of the nations, each person went and made his sukkah on the top of his roof. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu maktir aleim chama b'tkufas Tammuz. And Hashem will then set upon them the heat of the season of Tammuz. V'chol echad v'yechad mevayit b'sukkaso v'yotze. And everyone is going to kick his sukkah and he's going to leave. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, there's a pasuk in Sefer Tehillim, Ninatka es mosro seimo v'nashlicha mimenu avosemo. Let us break the cords of their yoke and the ropes. And Rashi explains, Nenatkas Mosrosemo al Hashem ve'al Mashicho kamar. This is referring to Hashem and His anointed one, lost love in the future. Kedichsiv lamarag shogoyim ulu'umim yaguri kolomar nenatka mitzvah sukkah sheitilu aleinu. Essentially, the nations of the world are saying, let us get rid of this mitzvah of sukkah, which He put upon us. But the Gemara continues and says, Maktir, but is He He's setting the heat upon them? V'amr, but didn't you just say, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba b'tshunya imbrios, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not deal with His creations in a tyrannical fashion, and here He's making it so difficult for them to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah. And the Gemara says to that, Mishum the Yisrael nami zimni. No, it's because Klal Yisrael also, when it comes to the mitzvah of sukkah, this happens with Klal Yisrael as well, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Gimel Amud Beis.